There are no walls between you and me, I realize. When I connect with our principles of God is, as above, I am, so below, so within, so without. And when we connect in that way, this is really the steps of prayer. God is, I am. I realize there are no walls between you and me. Look to a neighbor and say, I realize there are no walls between you and me when we share this holy word. When we share this holy word. And just feel that. Feel the connection. In our teaching, we talk about a law, and that when we align our thoughts with God consciousness, it becomes the law unto our being. But likewise, when we connect our thoughts and thinking with fearful thoughts, that becomes the law unto our own being. And it is in the New Thought teaching, of which unity is a part of, where I learned this. And at first I didn't like it, because what I heard is that I had infinite freedom, that I had the freedom of choice, and that I could choose my thinking. And I denied that. I'm like, nuh-uh, I can't help it. Anybody feel that way sometimes? I can't help the way I think. It's just the way it is, because that's what's going on in the world. And this whole way of mastery and this whole entrance into the way of the heart is the same teaching that we teach in all of our traditions, is that our thought, our thinking, our attention, and our awareness determines of what our experience is, and that rather than the world happening to us, it's actually being created from us. And so we're totally shifting our perspective and taking responsibility for our thoughts, for our thinking, and for our experience. And that's probably why, in some ways, this New Thought teaching or this ancient wisdom might have us question, well, why haven't we woken up by now? If that's all there is to it. And what I want to recognize and speak and say and acknowledge for us is, yeah, it's simple. It's a simple concept, but it's not always easy. It's not always easy to remember, to catch ourselves, because we get mesmerized by our habitual way of being, by the conditioning that has attempted to keep us safe in a world that we were told was unsafe. And in that, we walled ourselves off. We walled ourselves off from the power and the presence that is within us and all around us. That God consciousness, that love consciousness that indwells each of us. And so in this practice, not only does the law work both ways, and it does, but it leads to freedom. The more consistently we begin to practice and choose to raise our awareness, our heart and mind to that power and that presence, moment by moment, breath by breath. Have you ever heard me say, okay, let's pause here. Let's take a breath. That's what we're practicing. We're practicing the shift that needs to occur for the shift in consciousness, that we may choose our infinite freedom. How many of you feel infinitely free right now in your life? How many of you actually feel at choice in your life? We could raise our hands affirmatively, whether we actually in this moment really believe it or not. But in each and every given moment, we are infinitely free. And what this first lesson, the way that calls us home, is trying to convey to us is that we do live in that infinite freedom. And guess what? It's our choice as to whether or not we choose to spiritually awaken. Now, at Unity Renaissance, that just happens to be our vision. And it's the vision that pulls us forward. I don't know about you, but I've gotten to a point in my life where I'm willing to say, okay, pain, got enough of you. You've pushed me far along enough. But something else has got to give. And that we can learn through pain, but is it not time to simply allow a vision to pull us forward that doesn't require the pain of pushing? And so that's where I'm at in my life, in my evolution of my consciousness, and in my inspiration to begin to teach us that it's okay. Sure, we'll have moments of pain. Sure, we will. Sure, there are going to be lessons that feel challenging, but that we begin to see them as stepping stones and gifts rather than tombstones in our lives. And that's what we begin to do when we understand that we are infinitely free. This is demonstrated in my favorite story about this, is the story of the prodigal son. And I will return to this one repeatedly. But it is our story. It is the story where we think that there's something better away from source, away from God consciousness. So we take what we believe is ours, our inheritance, and we go out into the world to go seek it. And we actually separate ourselves off from our source because we've turned our attention and awareness into the world. And in the story of the prodigal son, he has many, many hardships. Pain's really pushed him to his knees. And where we find, or where I like to elucidate the story, is where he is on his knees, eating the leftovers of the swine that he is feeding. And I always say, for a Jewish boy, that's not a good place to be. And so there's a moment where there's a realization. I realize I'm the one who chose to separate myself off. There's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better way. And in that thought, that interrupter of a thought, there's got to be a better way. I want you to think about this in your life. Everyone is probably experiencing a challenge right now that feels dire in your lives. And I just want you to consider that of your own thinking, you may not be able to discern a solution. And in a moment, you can have the thought, oh my gosh, there's got to be a better way. And that's when you'll say, this is when Rev René says to pause and take a breath. And so you might just pause and start breathing. There's got to be a better way. Gee, I wish this were different. And begin to turn in a different direction to raise your mind and your heart into your best idea of what God must be. And begin to walk in that direction. In the story, it says that in that instant, the Father is right there with the Son. In that instant, God meets us and does not require you to beg, beseech, or to denigrate yourself for having forgotten. God's forgiveness is instantaneous, and I would even say is not ever even necessary, because God never beheld you as anything other than the holy beloved child, the spark of the divine, as he created you, as it created you, as she created you. And so that's this idea. A person who's recovering from an addiction has had that moment. They've been at their knees, and they have thought, oh my God, there's got to be a better way. And I would suggest that every one of us have practiced an addiction. being addicted to something other than God. A habit, a thought pattern that has kept you stuck, right? And so in those moments where we feel at our knees, that's where we insert the idea that there's got to be a better way. We are at infinite freedom to choose differently. It's just like the pilot who's flying the plane between point A and point B. All they're ever doing is recalibrating to get back on course. There's no judgment. They don't berate themselves. Oh my gosh, I'm off course. They expect to be off course at times. But they know, I recalibrate, and then I'm moving in the right direction. Same with your GPS. Ever hear? Rerouting, rerouting, rerouting. It doesn't say rerouting, you dummy. You went the wrong way. It just says rerouting. I'm putting you on notice. You got to turn around. In Spain, they call that returno. It took me forever. Like, what the heck does that mean, returno, on the signs when you're driving? It means turn around. You're going the wrong way. And so we live in a feedback system that informs us when we're over here. It doesn't feel good. Turn in a different way. Pause and take a breath. So we have this infinite freedom, and there's no judgment. We just observe and shift and turn. And my only responsibility in any given moment is to choose love. It's that story we told a while ago. Which wolf am I going to feed? Am I going to feed fear? That is the wolf that will win and get bigger. Am I going to feed love? Am I going to choose only love? The way of mastery, the way of the heart, says that is your only responsibility. Your only responsibility is to align. You don't need to make anything happen from there. You just keep your attention, your awareness, and your focus on God consciousness, love intelligence, peace, harmony, joy, the best derivatives of what you believe God to be. Don't let me tell you. You must discern this for yourself. So the only responsibility that we have is to continuously align ourselves, to ask ourselves in any given moment if we really are going to take and dedicate ourselves to the Unity Renaissance vision. It's about spiritual awakening. How am I using this moment to awaken? How am I using this moment, this experience, whatever it is, whatever the world seems to be doing, and choose to move in a different direction? And so we practice that through realizing we have the infinite freedom, we have the ability to direct our awareness, and we can choose. So, why are we talking about the heart, and why did our beloved Gail Boyton speak about the heart and heart map and the resonance of turning to the intelligence of the heart last week? Because we believe and we say that love points the way, and the heart is a representation of that love. And what is the heart? I thought, well, let's talk about the heart for a minute. It's that which embraces all things. It feels all things. Remember, we're not a pathway of avoidance. It trusts all things. It's trusting that whatever's going on in our lives is for us, not against us. It's trusting that it's a stepping stone to our awakening, not to take us out. So we trust all things. And if we can do that, we can allow all things, which means accepting what is. Because what we resist persists. Give it up, let go. Part of pausing and taking a breath is to release it as well. Release it, turn, let go, let God. And so that's really the heart. The heart is where the soul rests, eternally beyond space and time. That's why when a loved one transitions, we still feel the love. We always return to that feeling of remembering, of knowing the love that we shared, because it is eternal. It is not contained in a body. And neither are you. And so it's beyond space, it's beyond time. It is timeless. When we access that love, it is right there, as if it never went anywhere. And so that is what the heart is. It is the spark of light in the mind of God, and we call that here the Christ. The spark of the divine, and it's in each one of us. Say, that spark of the divine's in me. Tap your shoulder. That spark of the divine's in me. Please say it. It's right where I am. Say that. Try it. It's right where I am. God is. I'm a chip off the old block. I'm a spark of the divine. Say this. I am Christ. Woo, how does that feel? How does that feel? I am Christ. Jesus has been waiting for us to say that. Jesus is waiting for us to follow in his footsteps. So this is a teaching where we're not waiting for a savior outside of ourselves, but we're rising in our awareness of it. Now, how does the heart contrast to the intellect? We love our thinking, don't we? We cherish it and treasure it, don't we? I thought the best thoughts today. Have you ever thought that? Wow, what a great thought. I'm going to suggest otherwise, because I don't know about you, but my best thinking was the one who thought it would be a really great idea to go out over here. And my best thinking got me into all kinds of messes in this life. Boy, do I have some stories for another time. So the intellect was never designed to be our guide. It was designed to be a servant, a humble servant. And as Joshua says, and may I say, yet a stupid servant of an awakened heart. That the awakened heart is the one that guides and points. Love points the way. And just like the body, the intellect is a mechanism, is a tool for the awakened heart. And when we surrender in that way, all power under heaven and earth flows through us. Charles Fillmore says it this way: the intellect is not the source of spiritual understanding, the heart is. Gosh, we love our thinking. But it must be surrendered to the heart. So take a breath with me here. Receive a breath with me here. So remember, awakening is really just our decision to teach only love. And how do we teach love? We be love. And how do we do that? We recalibrate our thinking from fear and we turn to love. So I'm going to speak some quotes from different traditions so that you might hear this a little bit differently, but saying the same spiritual truth. So Fillmore would say, your thought is the matrix, the creative pattern from which your life is formed. Buddhist teaching would say, with our thoughts, we make the world. Hindu mystics would say, as a person thinks, so they become. Two more Hindu teachings. You are what your deep, driving desire is. Another one. The mind is everything. What you think, you become. Jewish mysticism. We do not see things as they are. We see them as we are. Christian scripture, according to your faith, be it unto you. The way of mastery, like unity teaching, like A Course in Miracles, like the science of mind, is simply this. It's a thought reversal system. It's a thought reversal system. It's teaching us how to recalibrate and realign our thoughts and thinking with God consciousness. I said earlier that the concept is simple, but it's not always easy. And I just want to take a moment to share with you a teaching from a book that really inspired me about 20 years ago. And it's David Hawkins' Power versus Force. Anybody familiar with that? It becomes the basis for what unity in science of mind teaches, the levels of consciousness. But what he did was he calibrated emotions and psychological reactions and responses. And based upon the kinesiology, the vibration, he ranked them. And it went from 100 to 1,000. And in this, anything below 200 is considered fear-based living. It's things like fear, but it's also, hang on, I listed them. It is energies connected with negativity, with the ego or the separate mind, shame, guilt, apathy, fear, and pride. When you get above 200, we're beginning in that shift in vibration and consciousness, and we become more compassionate, and forgiveness and kindness and truth kick in, and we begin to release the judgment of the ego, and it is replaced with empathy and understanding. It's not until we get to about 500 where love kicks in. Remember I said it went from 1 to 1,000? And that's where Jesus comes in. So there's more in our evolution of consciousness, my friends. And as we rise beyond love, we get into the ideas of joy, of peace, and enlightenment. The reason I'm bringing this up is because I want to say to you that it takes courage to change. It takes courage to release a thought system. Because who will you be then? It's like stepping into the unknown. Except we keep saying you return to yourself, your divine self. The way that we've been being in fear thought, that's the imposter. Who you are is your best and highest moments. That's the real you. When you're loving, when you're kind, when you have understanding, that's the real you. That's the divine identity. And it takes courage to believe in it. And what does courage mean? It means that you have the awareness and the mental strength and ability to stay the course in the midst of everything that seems to argue against love. But moreover, courage means more heart. So we return back to the heart again. And so the promise is that when we dedicate our lives to teaching only love, that we get peace, we get that love, we get that joy, but moreover, when we're willing to courageously release our best thinking and place it upon the altar and think of God thoughts, God consciousness, our lives change. And then we become the change that we wish to be in the world. And as I said at the beginning, I can think of no better time than now. There are extraordinary shadows operating in the world right now, right in this very moment. And the call to love, which is powerful, which can be, excuse my expression, I know it's being recorded, can be badass. Love might be counter to the intellect, but it's all power dedicate it to the heart. And I've just found in my own life, and I bet you do in yours, that when I choose that, all of those fearful shadows do disappear into the nothingness from which they came. And now is the time. And this is our call. And so our practice is courage, is willingness, is responsibility. And that we continuously pause. So people always want to know, what do I do? What do I do with this teaching? You can listen to it on YouTube for free. Lesson 1, we're in Lesson 1 in January. You can purchase the book in the bookstore or online. And you can, this week and this month, practice pausing as we do here. Observing your thoughts without judgment, recalibrating, and simply ask, how am I using this moment for awakening? That's the practice this week. We can talk about it here. Nothing's going to happen unless we practice. And I can't practice for you. Can't do it. I can practice for myself. And you must do that too.